So everyone knows that Santa Claus lives at the North Pole. More specifically, he actually lives in the Svalbard archipielago, which is the northernmost human settlement in the world. Svalbard is the only place on Earth where you don't need a visa to enter. However, their 2,600 inhabitants must be totally self-sufficient, and they also have to carry a gun whenever they leave the main town. Now, this isn't to defend themselves from each other, but rather to defend themselves from the polar bears which tend to roam around the region. But Svalbard, which belongs to the Kingdom of Norway, is the hotspot of a political dispute with Russia. Interestingly, this frozen region has a pretty good chance of becoming the next Dubai, although certainly not when it comes to the weather. Svalbard has one of the biggest oil beds in the world. Further, they are the gateway to the Arctic route, which might just become one of the most important pathways for international trade. And this is why Svalbard is more than an ordinary territorial dispute. We're talking about a potential new Cold War involving the United States, Canada, and even China. And today, that's the story we're going to tell you about. Let's imagine a land with open doors for immigrants no matter where they come from. A place where a military presence is forbidden because it's a demilitarized zone. A place which is a fiscal haven but has the average salary of Norway. Well, this place, it exists, and it's called Svalbard, and yes, it's at the North Pole. Also, if you want to go to Svalbard, there's no need to worry about catching a cold or the flu. The extremely cold temperatures make it impossible for viruses and bacteria to stay there. And in their capital, Longyearbyen, you can find the world's biggest liquor collection. Want to try a cognac from the 19th century, or maybe a rare whiskey? Well, Carlsberg pub is the place to go. So, let me introduce you to its owner, Steve Dorfsen.
Many different people from many different nations working with many different things. First of all, one of the biggest is absolutely the coal mining company. They have been the coal mining company for 100 years, actually. Today there is more and more people working with the tourist business, service like restaurant, bars, but also there is a lot of science going on Svalbard.
So, at the beginning of the 20th century, Svalbard was a no man's land and only some whale fishermen would dare go to this place. Nevertheless, after the First World War, nearly all countries signed something called the Svalbard Treaty. In this treaty, it is written that Norway holds sovereignty over the territory, but there are some restrictions. For one, they can't send in their army, they also can't build a headquarters or a stronghold, and they must allow every citizen and every company, no matter where they are from, to enter the island and exploit its natural resources. And this is how two cities were born. On the one hand, we have Longyearbyen, where the majority of the population is Norwegian. On the other hand, there is Barentsburg with a Russian majority. In both of these cases, they started as coal mining settlements.
Every year there is, or 2 times a year, there is like a sports contest between the settlements, between Barentsburg and Longyearbyen.
And so now you might be wondering, where exactly do these mining companies pay their taxes in Svalbard? Well, despite being a Norwegian territory, the Svalbard Treaty forbids any country from taxing the profits. This means their citizens pay the minimum required amount to finance their own governance. In other words, Svalbard could be considered a fiscal haven. They have no VAT and their corporate tax goes up to 16%, which is even lower than Singapore's.
The last 10-15 years have been a lot of people coming to Longyearbyen from many different places. Today there is like 46 different nations living in the Norwegian settlement Longyearbyen. All these different nations live very good together with each other in Longyearbyen. We have every year there is Loi Katong, there's a Thailand celebrating. There you have the Russian and you have the Swedish one.
But make no mistake, all those Thai, Russian and Swedish people are not coming to Svalbard just for the low taxes or the coal mines. As you might imagine, getting coal from the North Pole to the rest of the world is pretty expensive and it's not a very profitable business.
Svalbard coal mine halts production.
And so now you might be wondering, well, if coal's not profitable, why are there so many people going there? It's probably not for the balmy weather. During winter, Svalbard has a never-ending night where there is not even a single minute of daylight. Of course, several people who live there work in science research centers which are based on the archipelago. Indeed, since 2008, Svalbard has hosted the Global Seed Vault. This is a storage location paid for mainly by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and Microsoft. In this vault, there is stored a vast collection of seeds from most of the plants that exist in the world. In case of a nuclear holocaust, mankind would be able to replant the planet thanks to this great vault. But this is still not the reason why Svalbard is so important. In fact, there is something more interesting than coal, polar bears, science, or even Santa Claus himself.
The Arctic holds an estimated 13%, or 90 billion barrels, of the world's undiscovered conventional oil resources, and 30% of its undiscovered conventional natural gas resources.
Ah, yes. They have oil. But not only that. Let's imagine for a second that you want to ship some goods from London to Tokyo. Today, the fastest route would be to take this one. But imagine you could instead do it using this route. Do you see what's going on here? This is almost half of the distance. This means less spending and faster logistics. Technology and climate change are making it possible to travel through the Arctic Ocean, and this would be a turning point in international trade. And one day, this is going to be a reality. And on this day, Svalbard has the highest chance of becoming the Arctic capital. The rest of the islands belong to Russia and have no human population. Greenland, on the other hand, has a chaotic legal system. Svalbard has a strong political system and good infrastructure. The proof is in this very interview with Steve, which was conducted through Skype. But do wait just a moment, because the best part, it's yet to come.
The frozen war for the Arctic.
All Arctic oil is under the sea. This means the above-the-ground land of Svalbard has no oil beds, at least that we know of. All their wealth is on the so-called Continental Shelf. This is the underwater landmass which extends from a continent no deeper than 200 meters. According to international law, the Continental Shelf belongs to the country that it is attached to. And of course, this includes all of the resources beneath. So it should be the government of the country who decides whether they want to exploit this resource or not. And yes, both Norway and Svalbard's archipelagos are on the same continental shelf. Therefore, in normal conditions, the Norwegian government would have sovereignty over this oil. But remember what we said about the Svalbard Treaty? Every country can exploit the resources, and Norway can do nothing to stop them. So, what exactly is the problem here? Well, that's that the treaty actually says nothing about the continental shelf or anything under the water at all. At the end of the day, when it was signed, no one was really thinking about extracting oil from the bottom of the ocean. And this is why news like this makes people so nervous.
Russia believes Norway is violating the Svalbard Treaty when the Norwegian government opens 3 blocks for oil drilling in the Barents Sea, close to the Arctic archipelago.
In summary, Russia says the continental shelf of Svalbard should be ruled by the treaty and be exploited by any country. But Norway claims that since the legal text didn't contain anything about this, the oil and the rights to extract it belong to them. And now we come to Russia. Now, you might still be thinking that this North Pole thing is a small story, one of those things for academics and diplomats to have discussions about while having dinner. But the truth is that Vladimir Putin sent his Vice Prime Minister Dmitry Rogozin to make a controversial visit to the archipelago.
It's the Cold War in the Arctic. Russia says its Deputy Prime Minister had every right to visit a Norwegian island near the North Pole, despite travel restrictions imposed on him over the conflict in Ukraine. Norway has condemned the trip and asked for an explanation.
This visit turned Svalbard into a fashionable tourist destination among Russians. In the last 2 years, Svalbard's tourism has increased by 500%. Now, as I mentioned at the beginning, there are 2 villages on the main island. One is Norwegian and one is Russian. The Russian one is called Barentsburg and has a population of less than 500 people. Incredibly, in 2015 alone, they had more than 60,000 tourists visit this island. So now you might be wondering, why is Russian tourism so important to Svalbard? Well, that's because it helps to retain population.
But in Barentsburg, there are more on the system where you have where the coal company is everything, and you're eating in the canteen, and it's not necessary to buy your food someplace.
For a better understanding, in the Russian settlement there is no currency. The mining company takes care of everything. Something like this did used to happen in the Norwegian settlement too, but then tourism started and that brought all new kinds of businesses and many different people.
So they are in the beginning of a process on the same way as we have been doing it in Longyearbyen the last 25-30 years.
But do watch out, because here we're talking about oil and influence in what might become one of the main ocean shipping routes in the world. In fact, even China is trying to buy property here. But that's a whole different issue, and that's something we're going to talk about in a future video. And so we've given you our opinion here at VisualPolitik, and now we'd love to know yours. What do you think of Svalbard? Do you think it will become a new and rather frozen Dubai? Should Norway let Russia exploit the Svalbard oil? Let us know in the comments section below. We'd love to hear from you, and don't forget that we put out brand new videos every Monday and Thursday, so do not forget to subscribe to our channel for brand new videos. Also, if you did like this video, please do give it a thumbs up below. It helps us out, and as always, I'll see you next time.
And if you want to learn more about politics and hear even more of my lovely voice, you can join us at Reconsider Media. We have a podcast at reconsidermedia.com/podcast. See you there.